How's it going, internets? I hope you're having a lovely day today. It's that time again. It's time to get into some animation. It's time to get creative. It's time to get all of those imaginative juices going, and it's time to get inspired. And today's inspiration comes from Jean-Baptiste Monge, and if you're not familiar with his work, check over here. He is a phenomenal illustrator, such a creative sense to all of his work. Really phenomenal line work, great texturing, great color, great layout. He's just I find that he's one of those artists where every piece of his work that I see, no matter if it's a sketch or a finished piece or anything, I just am drawn to it. Every piece just definitely pulls me into the worlds that he's creating, and I think that's a phenomenal thing to have as any type of content creator. I'm just going to leaf through a couple of his images here so you guys can see it. I'll link in the description below to more of his stuff so that you guys can follow him on Twitter and see all of his amazing stuff as well. But I just love his work. It's really reminds me of Froude and the fairies books that were around. It's got even like a little bit of a Frazetta feel to some of its stuff as well, and even like stuff like this. So you can tell there's like a Norman Rockwell sense to his work as well. It's just phenomenal illustrator, such a creative mind. I love this stuff. It's got that sense of classical drawing style with such whimsical and really imaginative creatures and everything too. So that being said, let me share a little bit of a quote from him from an interview that he did recently, and it was, "My characters evolve as I draw them, but I'd love to have a more organized mind so that I could build a picture which never alters from the moment I begin to the end. I mean, it would be less sportive. Sigh, I'm never satisfied. So I change, erase. Sometimes I give up, begin again, give up again, and begin again until I feel and I hear the picture living." And I think that's such a great quote and a great way to work in that way that, sometimes this might not work, other times this might not work. So you just keep at it, you keep trying, you erase, you start again, and you just keep going until you hit that sense where you're like, you know what, this is speaking to me. This is, I feel like I'm in that world. I feel like the muses are finally in tune. And I think that applies to any type of creative work. You write a song and you're like, you know what, this part works, but this part doesn't. So you get rid of that part and you get a new hook behind it, or you get new lyrics behind it, and then you just keep tweaking it and keep, just messing with it here and there until it's just right in that sweet spot. So I think that's a definite great goal to have in mind. And also, I know I personally, one of my favorite things, quotes, is from Milt Kahl, amazing Disney animator, and he always said, "I struggle like hell to make a drawing look good." And if somebody who's probably the #1 animator as far as history and people would look back to, that everyone can kind of say, at least in the top 9 for sure, but that they have that kind of stuff. And here you can see that again where he says, "Sigh, I'm never satisfied." Just that sense of we're all there. Maybe you're not as far down the road as these amazing creators are, but everyone gets that sense as a artistic person, that there's just those times where it's tough, or it's just not right, or you keep struggling. And if people who are phenomenal creators have those same things, it's okay to have those in your life as well. So that being said, let's go ahead and dive into our animation, but definitely check him out. I'm really enjoying finding different illustrators or animators or anything to share with you guys too. I know we've been doing this for about 3 months now. I'm building up a big audience. You guys are awesome and amazing. Thanks for all the likes and subscribes. I hope that you guys are enjoying this series. But I know that I personally myself am enjoying trying to go out and broaden my horizons and learn about new illustrators or new animators, or different content creators myself. So if you have ideas of people you'd like to kind of talk about or share, definitely throw those in the comments down below too. So that being said, like I said, let's jump into our animation for today. If you're not familiar with what we'll be doing for the rest of the video, give ourselves 48 frames. It's 2 seconds of animation. We get ourselves a different rig. This one is Let me pull up the exact name here. It's the Memo Mime rig. It's a free rig you can grab off of Creative Crash. Again, a link to this rig will be in the description below, so you guys can download it as well. And don't forget, if you guys do end up creating an animation with this character, then share it back so we can see all the wonderful stuff you guys are coming up with. So that being said, let's go ahead and dive in here. And hopefully, by the end of the video, you guys may have learned something, or at least get inspired to go off and create something of your own. So let's go ahead and turn off the grid here. And turn everything off except for our nerd curves, our nerd surfaces, and our polygons. And let's get into some animating. So first thing I want to do is I want to go ahead and save our scene. I didn't do this yet for this file. And then we are using Maya 2014. Again, a link to the program will be in the description below. And don't forget, when you are working, that it's always a good practice to have that is save multiple versions and to save often, just in case you want to revert back to maybe an earlier version that you did, or in case you have a program crash or you end up breaking the rig too far, you can always revert back as well. And we're just going to call this Memo Mime and save that. And the one thing I don't really talk about very much is I usually save my stuff in ASCII instead of MB format, and that's just kind of a personal preference, but usually it's a safer, it's a more editable file in case there's a crash, so that's just a personal preference, but they both seem to work fairly well. I personally just stick with MA unless the file doesn't work with that, and then it's okay to do MB. And I was thinking for this one, let's see, there's a hip, and then it's a piston, so let's just go ahead and make sure we stick with the, I think is what we're going to do. We'll go ahead and lean it back. Now, there is one thing that I was noticing with this, if you do end up using this rig, and I could tweak this for a while, but I just went ahead and I just put a Lambert over the eyes. The eye texture wasn't really working too well on this one, so definitely if you do end up doing an animation and you figure out a good workaround with the eye texture, let me know and we can always check that out and see all your wonderful ideas there. And let's go ahead and so I was thinking kind of with this one is we'd have him walk backwards and like he's pulling an imaginary rope or getting dragged by something. I was thinking since he's a mime, it might be fun to kind of play up and work within that wheelhouse here. Elbows here a little bit, and it is set up a little bit differently. As you can see, you have the rotation on the hands as a separate controller than the translation of the hands. It's an interesting choice. If you guys are professional riggers, which I would never claim to be, at least not yet, let me know why you would set up a rig that way, because I think that's an interesting choice. I wonder where it would come in handy to have one or the other. Maybe we'll see when we're doing our animation today as well. And then, like I said, we're gonna make it as though he's pulling something, so we want to add a little bit of tension in these arms. And we'll kind of offset the weight of the hips here, that they'll be, let's even dip them, make sure we're grabbing the right one, dip them down, and pull them back a little more. And we have, is this a shoulder? Let's see if we can't lean that in. So I can rotate Y. Let's bring it off on the other side here. And let's rotate Y. Maybe it's that elbow that's doing it. these fingers. So go ahead and save our file real quick. Just Control S, just since we already put a decent amount of pose work in there already. Yeah, let's do. Oh, okay. So we don't have. Different way to set up fingers as well, but it's okay. At least we get a curl for each one. Rotate that hand a little more. Maybe we'll pull it forward a little bit. And then let's go ahead and put that in a little bit. Put that in. Put that in a little bit. And just make it feel more we can convince that he's gripping something, the better we can do here. Let's look at the hand here. Let's just start off by curling everything up. Take this guy. Top curl. Second one. Pull that out a little bit more. Third one. Pull it out a little bit more as well. And let's move it over. Perhaps maybe not so straight. Let's raise it up a little bit more. And rotate it this way. Don't want to totally break the wrist now. Rotate that down a little bit more. Okay. Make it look like he's pulling on something. If we could draw like an imaginary rope through there, because it's a mime, so that's what we want to do. I feel like the rest of the pose is pretty supportive of that. And let's go ahead and save our file. And let's set our frame range. We're going to go from 0 to 48. It's 2 seconds. And let's grab everything. Make sure we have only nerve curves, nerve surfaces, and polygons selected. And go to frame 0. And we're going to go ahead and set our first frame. And now we're going to build in the lock, and that's going to be the feet and the hips first. It's the foundational stuff for our walk here. Raise it forward, bring it back, and bring it back, and plant it again. I'll go ahead and do kind of smaller steps here. See if we can try to add the feel of tension in our animation here. Set that there, mix it up there. To make sure we're grabbing the right hip controller here, pull it back again. So let's go ahead and grab the hands here. So let's move them. We're using IK hands, inverse kinetic hands today instead of FK, which we usually do. And we'll tweak them up a little bit here too. But like I said, we're just building the foundational stuff for our lock. Let's go raise that up. This one's at 36. Push it back to 48. Mix it up here. Again, I'm going to grab what's in the hips and pull it back again. Okay, so let's go and look at that now. see, that's going to be the right to left movement in this one. And let's go ahead and make it a constant here. We are going to not make the hands a constant, but I want those to kind of have a little bit of pull to them. So this is going to be a little bit more jerky then. For right now though, we are going to go in and just lock them in at a constant for what we're doing here. So just add a little bit of weight to our steps. And let's see. Okay, this feels like probably a little too much, so let's go ahead and scale that back here. Side to side sway here on the hips. It's the planted foot. I like the style of this rig though. I think it's a very different style than we usually have. Kind of the bigger middle and then the bony legs and the large thigh gap. I think it's got some real nice character to it. Okay. And let's go ahead and more that kind of 1920s style with hose style limbs, or that even like Adventure Time style of animation. And let's do that just so we have a little bit of translation side to side there. Let's go and see that. And let's go ahead and add a little bit of rotation here to favor along with that translation here. Clean that up. It's always good to kind of clean up your curves as you go. For myself, at least, it helps to make sure that I'm not getting any grit in there that I'm gonna have to not re-find out where it is later. And let's do a little bit of rotate Y here, and then rotate Y there to favor which foot would be in front here. Doing, backward steps versus forward steps is basically the same. You just kind of want to favor the hips a little bit differently, and especially since we want to add like a sense of pull to the body, we're definitely putting the hips a little further back than normal to keep them balanced at least. So let's see. One thing I'm noticing that I don't like is how this elbow is. So let's go ahead and tweak it out here. Okay, Let's go ahead and clean that up a little more. So we're definitely favoring one side versus the other. Now, there's a couple of things that we could try here. Keeping a straight locked arm gives that sense of tension and that sense of weight versus a bent one. It's not as tight. But you don't have to have it. You can still have pull and grip from something like this. Something like this definitely does add a sense of weight though. And we're getting some dynamic stuff in the elbow. And I'm not really liking so much. And that means that we could either switch over to FK and just kind of lock it in and we wouldn't get that. Or we could bend it in a little more, we wouldn't get that, or we could straighten it out the whole time and not get that. So this is where animation, you kind of have to choose what you want to do with your shot and how you want to approach things, because there isn't always, you know, one universal fix for it. See, like right there, give some funky elbow. Sigh at a couple different places. This one, just on my hands here. Go ahead and translate to there, translate to there, to there, and translate to there. Okay. Now what I want to do is grab every other one and have it stretch out a little more. Did the other opposite way. So. It's a little better. I think it's a little too much. I just want to hint at that. I want them to definitely have like one go a little bit before. Like one of these rotates has got to be off or something there. Let's just scale back the rotate Y on the hips a little more, see if that helps us. Can you see like right here that elbow kind of rolls? So I think what we'll go ahead and do there is we'll just it's a little just too much on this shoulder here. So here, let's try that now. Let's grab this one. Let's push it forward 2 frames. some variation a little more between these hands, so I'm not going to do these as a universal. Just do each one kind of individually, so that way we're not getting as much uniformity between the two hands. We vary the timing a little bit, and if we can vary the pulsing a little bit more, that's going to help. Now let's see if we can't, let's go and save our file. I haven't done that for a little while. And let's see if we can't do a little back, forward, back, forward, forward. Let's see. These guys, we'll go forward. Just going to offset what we did with the hips here. Let's actually grab the translate C's and let's go the other way. No, like they're not pulling so much as they're pushing. Let's grab it up and down. I'm going to switch those as well. There. Feels a little more pushy. This hand is just grab everything on the translate C here. We'll do a little closer. Maybe see about this one. Let's see if we can get a little bit of bounce on those fingers here too. So what we're going to want to do there is have them pull open a little bit there. And then collapse in. Open, collapse in, open, collapse in. Okay, and then I definitely want the ring and pinky to do a little more here. I think we need to exaggerate the middle a little more here too. index mid is a little too much here. Let's grab the middle and the bottom. Everything, and we'll delay the frame. And then we'll grab all the bottoms, or the tips of the fingers, and we'll delay the frame. So. And then we'll grab everything on the index, and we'll push it forward a frame, everything on the pinky, and we'll drag it back a frame, just so there's some variation there. So. Let's go ahead and got the thumb. Let's go ahead on this first one and we'll pull it down a little bit and take the tip. Let's see. Let's flip it here, something. I think that means we need two more. Just a little bit on that tip here. Go the other way. Yeah, this one. And we'll delay the frame here. Just a little movement with those so it feels right. Just drag it something around. Okay, let's go ahead and save our file. Let's do a little bit in the feet and then we'll approach the other hand here. So let's go ahead and just once again lock in all of our main keys here on the feet. And we'll go ahead and drag the foot down there. Lift it up here and land it. Drag it. And place it down so it's going to be. Okay. I think our first step was a little over exaggerated, so we'll tone it down a little bit, make it more like the second here. And let's look at the other side. Again, we're just gonna lock in all of our keys once again and drag it, lift it up, and then put it down. Position it was in, lift it up, so it's a heel landing. And kind of tone that down a little more. We'll find a good balance between the two steps here as well. Got, as you can see, some higher steps and some lower steps, so let's kind of find the medium ground there. It doesn't have to be exactly the same, but just so that one step isn't a lot bigger than the other. And then let's look at the rotate X's, and those are pretty balanced. Okay, and I think there's a toe tap here, which we might be able to use. So let's see. It's the toe flap. Yeah, there we go. Drag that toe there. Here. And light hand just so we get a little overlap so the heel will hit and the toe will go down. And we So just add some variety to those steps there. Swap that in. And let's go ahead and look at this foot again. And we're gonna just do that toe flap down there, lift it up here. We don't want to do too much because it seems like it deforms the foot a little bit instead of just doing typical tilt. But a little bit will help there. Just add some variety to those steps. And let's go ahead and find a good balance between those two. I feel like a couple are a little bit higher than the other. And I just kind of want a little bit of that toe since a lot goes a long way with the way that it's set up. And let's scale it back here. Let's go ahead and look at it again here. Let's go ahead and add a little more up and down on those steps. The hips there at least. Just a little bit more. We can maybe do it over here then. Yeah, see, now that'll give us that little bit of squash and stretch. We could probably go overboard with this, so we want to be careful. Yeah, there's a couple of those that are a little too much. We just want to kind of pepper that in a little bit. So let's scale it back. Overall, I think this is coming along pretty well. And let's go ahead and just even this out a little more. And let's go and take a look at how that turned out. It adds a little bit of that squash and stretch to that body, which is nice. And maybe we could do a little bit of side to side here as well. The nice thing about this is it's not really a root, so it doesn't affect the rest of the body. It's just pretty much on the hips themselves. So that's why I like to use both of those if possible. So you can do one where you're, adding the elements of the weight and balance and everything, and the other one's just a little bit of over exaggeration on that, or tweaking it so that you get a little more life out of that. Okay, so far so good. And let's go ahead and we're getting a little bit of animation on the head so far just because of how this controller is set up. So I think I'm just going to leave it. It's enough to keep alive on the head. So I'm just going to kind of leave that where it is. Normally I would do a lot of more head animation, but it's not distracting and I feel like it's working okay. So I'm just going to kind of leave it here. Squash vein. Squash vein. Squash vein. So let's see. Careful if we're getting some intersection there, so that index one, I'm just going to minimize all of that stuff here. Just going to hardly move that index finger because otherwise it intersects with the other hand, and I would like how the hand's working, so this extra little keep alive in the fingers isn't that important. For that one finger, we can put it in the rest of them. As long as it's not locked off, I feel like that's fine. So like I said, we're really going to pretty much mostly drain out the animation from that tip of the finger there. Because otherwise it's... Yeah, see? Still getting some. So... Let's go in a little bit further and really shrink it down. as well. I'll shrink it down a little more here as well. Okay, so let's look at that now. Not as much. Another thing that we can do just a little bit of is I think I'm just going to take the translate X and just kick it over just a little bit. Still do the same thing. Get nearly as much intersection, and it still feels pretty believable that they could both be holding onto a rope at that point. And that's what we want to do, is just have that believability that we can lay a thick piece of rope like in between there. And let's go ahead and grab those other ones, and I kind of want to scale them back a little more as well. Those other fingers. There's too much movement in there. Let's see here. Maybe a little more on the top part of those fingers. Like the base, actually. Okay, and then we'll go ahead and grab all of them. Let's just reselect them here. I'm going to save our file too real quick, just since we haven't done that for a little while. And we'll go ahead and grab the middle and the bottom, middle and bottom, middle and bottom, middle and bottom. We'll go ahead and delay those frame, and we'll just grab all of the bottom ones, and we'll delay those frame as well. Then we'll take the index finger, we'll push it forward a frame, and the pinky, and we'll delay the frame. And then I think I want to grab everything actually and push it all forward a frame here too. So let's go ahead and look at that now. See, they all kind of pull out and then grip in, pull out and grip. Still feel like we need a little more up and down. It's just not enough up and down. Go ahead and crank that a little bit more. Let's go and watch it now. It's just the tail that needs to be more exaggerated. Overall, I think that works pretty good. Let's go ahead and turn our nerd curves off. It's believable that he would be pulling something back. And that counterweight would allow for the weight of the hips to be a little too far to the other side here. As if you're not understanding what I'm saying, we have to imagine, and this is what mimes are good at, that you would make this stuff believable. So imagine like a giant box here, and there's a rope here, and he's pulling on it. The hips would be like right here. If this was a regular shot of ours, the hips would be too far pushed to screen left here, and we'd want to push them forward so that that would feel balanced in that step. But since we're going to do that, you want to kind of throw the body off balance a little bit to sell that there's the weight from the other side that you would need to compensate for in order to move it. And that helps give that sense of weight to it as well. So I think that worked pretty well. So let's go ahead and take a look back at where we started today with Jean-Baptiste. My characters evolve as I draw them, but I would love to have a more organized mind so that I could build a picture which never alters from the moment I begin to the end. I mean, it would be less sportive. Sigh, I'm never satisfied. So I change, erase. Sometimes I give up, begin again, give up again, and begin again until I feel and I hear the picture living. I think that's a phenomenal way to work in a great mental picture to give you about the creative process, to just continue to tweak and continue to work on a project until it just feels right, until you can imagine it being the way, or until it looks the way or sounds the way that you originally kind conceived the idea and to continue to work to try to find that. So that being said, thanks again for all the likes and subscribes. Thanks for watching. You guys are amazing. I hope you're pushing yourselves every day to continue to get better at whatever medium it is that you're working in. And that being said, we will see you for some more animation tomorrow.